living amazing. I'm never gonna be complaining. Turn myself into a boss, 24/7 feel like a vacation. I still remember the days, driving delivery, not getting paid. I started rapping and everything changed. Travel to Italy, I celebrate everything that I've been doing. Closing the doors, but I'ma break through 'em. Caught me a foreign, but I want a new one. Look like a tourist, but I'm speaking fluent. Came a long way from my younger life. None of this happening overnight. Put in a decade of work, my resume speak for itself. These rappers be looking like socialites. I'm not a type for comparisons. Allergic to losses like Claritin. Believed in myself when nobody would. Remember they told me I'm arrogant. I still remember the days when I was working for minimum wage. I looked myself in the mirror, told myself I gotta switch up my ways. Now I'll be living amazing. I'm never gonna be complaining. Turn myself into a boss, 24/7 feel like a vacation. I still remember the days when I was working for minimum wage. I looked myself in the mirror, told myself I gotta switch up my ways. Now I'll be living amazing. I'm never gonna be complaining. Turn myself into a boss, 24/7 feel like a vacation. The longer the journey, the better the outcome. They got a label, did it without one, don't need to fake it. I cannot stand them, been dedicated, this is not random. I've been doing this for a minute, put in the time, now I get to live it. Travel the world, I gave it a visit, then I'm getting back to the business. Ayy, I'm Bradley Cooper when I'm feeling limitless, making the money and then I be giving it back to the people who raised me. I take the rest, I invest and I'm flipping it. The industry full of some snakes, live in the moment, then I get away. I take advantage of all of my chances when I look back at how far that I came. I still remember the days when I was working for minimum wage. I looked myself in the mirror, told myself I gotta switch up my ways. Now I'll be living amazing. I'm never gonna be complaining. Turn myself into a boss, 24/7 feel like a vacation. I still remember the days when I was working for minimum wage. I looked myself in the mirror, told myself I gotta switch up my ways. Now I'll be living amazing. I'm never gonna be complaining. Turn myself into a boss, 24/7 feel like a vacation. Nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Ayy, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. Ayy, turning that nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Ayy, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. All of these rappers been getting richer when they always be rapping about being rich. That don't make sense to me cause I relate to the rappers who talking about real shit. I don't got time for that jibber jabber cause I already know what the deal is. They only here for today but they leaving tomorrow like they on a field trip. Windows tinted when I'm pulling up, feel like I'm Heisenberg cooking up. And if you been talking that crazy, got Dre with me and he fix you up. Who you know been dropping hit after hit after hit after hit. I'm on a mission, they get in my way and everybody knows that I'm never gon' miss. Look at me go. Ayy, turning that nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Ayy, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. Ayy, turning that nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Ayy, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. Spending more time with my fam, cause they the only ones who know what I've been through. Everybody riding waves, looking like they gotta find a new swimsuit. Made a promise to myself, I'm never gonna stop till I get what I'm into. I don't need much to be happy, just enough money to pay when the rent's due. Touring the world, I'ma make it happen. Meeting the fans who I made it happen. Know that I never be losing traction. Best in the game, yeah, I be the captain. Living my life with a chip on my shoulder. Lately it feels like a boulder. Looked at my watch and I don't have no time to chill. I need a meal. Look at me go. Ayy, turning that nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Ayy, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. Ayy, turning that nothing to something, now they all love it. Look at me go. Ayy, can't even go out in public, nobody trusted. Look at me go. Ayy, pressure been building, I gotta raise up the ceiling. Look at me go. Hey, these other rappers be my children, all in they feelings. Look at me go. Hey, look at that boy, got God all in him. All that I do is already written. Tell them my truth, I talk, they listen. Can't find a box that I could fit in. I've been on track, I've been through it all. Nothing they say could stop what I'm on. Back to the basics, mind been racing. I'ma go catch everything that I'm chasing. Not on my waiting, but I know my time coming and I'm getting impatient. Proud that I never just gave in. I could've made it, but I'd rather do it all my own way than whole lot of games, but I don't play them. My shit real, I don't do no faking. Already know that's gonna be my summer. Watch how I'm coming. I've been on one. For my people, I work till the morning. I stay on my grind, I keep it going. I've been waiting on this way too long, yeah. Way too long, yeah. I've been on one. For my people, I work till the morning. I stay on my grind, I keep it going. I've been waiting on this way too long, yeah. Way too long, yeah. All that talk, but I'm tired of the cap. All around the world where you find me at. My GPS just turned to a map, and the life they show I've been living that. Just got back from the coast of Amalfi. Worldwide trips just turned to a hobby. I could get used to this. I've been doing that, I ain't new to this. But the grind don't stop, I'm too dedicated. I'ma do me if they love it or hate it. Check that streams, they looking inflated. All that fame be looking outdated. I'm trying to tell them to take over coming. Waiting my turn, but I'm finally buzzing. I've been the greatest, they know it. Started from nothing, I turned it to something. I've been on one. For my people, I work till the morning. I stay on my grind, I keep it going. I've been waiting on this way too long, yeah. Way too long, yeah. I've been on one. For my people, I work till the morning. I stay on my grind, I keep it going. I've been waiting on this way too long, yeah. Way too long, yeah. Hey, I'm out in the cold desert. My phone I do not disturb. I'm living the life, I'm feeling the vibe. They know that the bag's secure. Don't got any room on my passport. I travel around the world. The places I go, the things that I seen. Yeah, this is the life I earn. I look at the man in the mirror and I see a winner. I did it my way, I don't need your opinion. Put food on the table, my pockets got bigger. I'm eating that caviar, breakfast and dinner. I do what I want when I want and I love it. I knew all along I make something for nothing. I celebrate every day of the week. The checks keep increasing from month after month, and I give myself all the validity. I don't need nobody telling me differently. Don't care about fame, cause that don't mean shit to me. I just enjoy what I do and take care of my family. Whoa, I'm out in France, I travel the coast. I kick it in Cannes, they hit Monaco. The life that I chose, I put in the work and I seen the results. Yeah, step in the ring, Muhammad Ali. My name got a ring like caller ID. I'm one of the biggest who reppin' and see. The lack of respect is not bothering me. My life a reflection, what they wanna be. The views that I seen are hard to believe. I don't need approval from journalists who really be some failed MCs. I know the truth behind all the madness, minding my business, keep living lavish. Love all the fans who made it all happen. I wouldn't be here without them, don't take it for granted. Yeah, my life is a movie, but I'm not an actor. Everything real, I'm turning a chapter. On to the next, I'll see what's in store. But for now, I'm out in the cold desert. My phone I do not disturb. I'm living the life, I'm feeling the vibe. They know that the bag's secure. Don't got any room on my passport. I travel around the world. The places I go, the things that I seen. Yeah, this is the life I earn. Yeah, it's a new year, but I'm still here. Getting my reps up, I'm top tier. Been getting ready for war, I tell them there ain't no man I fear. Taking my time, but watching close. What they been saying about my flows. I gotta get my revenge, I'm proving them wrong and counting them O's. Whoa, putting that game in a chokehold. Never been paying for promo. Put a Rolex on my mama wrist, got diamonds, calling them stone cold. Got my bro rich. rich, I got my girl rich, so everyone good in my circle. I started from scratch and made these ends by putting my name on the logo, yeah. I be living with a vacation, I made Miami my zip code. Life been looking like the Travel Channel, they watching everywhere that I go. From Dubai out to Tokyo, then to Monaco, I done seen the most. I was sitting next to Kanye, said you changed my life, had to let him know. Made the beat, I had to switch it up, never needed nobody help. Remember when they didn't show me love, I had to get it all by myself. Still be thinking about the late nights, I was working overtime, losing rest. Nowadays I be sleeping good, knowing that the rest of my life is set. Made my net worth triple double like Westbrook, the way that I invest. Making music turn to a hobby now, cause I really don't need the bread. Could be sitting on the court side for a whole season with a breaking sweat. Used to buy that designer shit, but now I be wearing them Nike sweats. Getting on the rim.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. Everybody, how is it going today? Welcome to Thursday. I always get, I get super excited whenever there's a Thursday stream. It's like, yes, Thursday stream means we get to talk SecDataOps, means we get an awesome guest, and it's the middle of the day stream. I love seeing you guys the middle of the day on Thursday. Like, it's the pre-Friday warm-up stream. That's the biggest reason why I love it, because you know what happens tomorrow. You know there's Tea with a Hacker tomorrow morning. Let's get after it. What do you say? Super excited for today's stream. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're a first-time listener, welcome aboard. I appreciate it. My name is Neal Bridges. Welcome to SecDataOps, the awesome stream where we do the convergence of security operations and data operations and really kind of try to bring those two concepts together and understand this changing world that we have from a cybersecurity perspective, especially as we talk about how much data there exists out there, how we're going about defending organizations and using those in a data strategy. It's a brand new world. We love talking about SecDataOps here, so welcome to the SecDataOps. I'm super excited for my guest today. I'm going to introduce my guest here in a little bit. I got introduced to Alan a couple months ago, right before RSA, and I loved our conversation. Brilliant mind. He's excellent in this space. He's got amazing, perspective on things. He's been with some large organizations. I'll kind of talk about him here in a little bit when I do his intro. But as you can tell, I'm super excited to be able to interview him today. We're going to pull out a lot of good nuggets of information with Alan today. So before we get started with that, let's make sure we hit some words. And by words, I meant rules. You can tell the caffeine's been flowing. I've been on my caffeine fix a little bit today. So for those of you guys who tune in to Tea with a Hacker and see me first thing in the morning, when I get the caffeine going first thing in the morning, and now what is it? It's 3 o'clock on a Thursday, and I've still got this same energy. This is why people at work hate working with me, because I got the same energy all day, baby, all day. Anyway, let's do some rules. First rule, the biggest rule, the one that is the most important one, right? There is no racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, or otherwise toxic behavior in chat whatsoever, period, dot. We have a zero tolerance for toxicity, on this chat. What that means is, obviously we're here with a bunch of cybersecurity professionals all across multiple, streams. We're streaming live across LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, X. Cool. I had to make sure all the platforms going. We're streaming across a lot of different platforms, a lot of different folks across all those platforms tuning in to listen to us today. We're all in this business together. We're all fighting the same crimes together. It means keep it respectful. Keep the conversations respectful amongst fellow cybersecurity folks in your respective chats, wherever you happen to be chatting at us from. You can see Twitch chat here on the left-hand side of my screen over here for the folks in Twitch. We do have moderators in chat. Huge shout out to all of our moderators. Moderators are here on a volunteer basis. It's obviously the middle of the workday for them, and so they're taking time out of their workday to come and make sure that chat is free of any racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. So make sure you give huge W's in chat wherever you happen to be for our moderators. Who are hanging out on there. With that being said, moderators are not here to stifle chat. As a matter of fact, if you're new to this stream, we're huge fans of civil discourse. I may say something you disagree with. Our guests may say something you disagree with. We absolutely love it when you propose those ideas into chat. As a matter of fact, chat is one of the biggest reasons why people come to our streams and tune into the lives, because you get an opportunity to interact with myself or with our guest live here on stream. So with that being said, drop your questions in the chat at any point in time. I can promise you the moderators are looking for those questions and comments across the entirety of the chatscapes. Whenever they see a question or a comment or concern, they'll push it up on screen, kind of like what they did with this one from Finris Games. It says, I'm more interested in your handicap, golf handicap. Yeah, I went there. How are we all doing, folks? Good to see you. My handicap is coming down. I'm in the single digits on the handicap. So I got three tournaments next weekend. I got a Saturday, Sunday, Monday tournament next weekend that I'm super excited about. So with that being said, make sure you do hop into Discord. I'll explain that here in a little bit, but you are going to want to be in Discord for today's stream. I think that's it for all my logistics. Without further ado, let me bring the level of excitement to just the guest that I have here today. I'm going to bring him in here in a second. I'm very excited. Everybody put your hands together, your virtual hands together into chat for my guest that I'll be sharing the stream with today, Mr. Alan White. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here on SecDataOps. Before I give you a chance to say anything, let me take a minute to brag about your background for just a little bit here, because it's absolutely amazing. 18 years in the U.S. Army. Thank you very much for your service. You were a signals operations officer, which means you were on the intel side. Then you were defensive cyber operations for a good number of years. You worked at Dell SecureWorks, where you were in charge of a lot of the consulting managing directorship over at SecureWorks. You were Senior Vice President of Cyber Advisory Services for Digital 14 for a good number of years. Then you took on the Vice President of Managed Defense for Mandiant. Fantastic. I can't wait to ask you about some of your experiences with Mandiant, having been a customer of Mandiant for a number of years. And then ultimately, obviously, as part of that acquisition with Google, you then got to be head of Managed Defense, for Google as well. And so a lot of pedigree there. Very awesome. Welcome to SecDataOps, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I was telling you like earlier, I got some time to swing some balls over at Top Golf today, so that was kind of nice. Way to spend lunch with a good friend, and yeah, feeling pretty good. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. For anybody who wants to get connected with Alan, you can hit !guest in chat, and you can get access to Alan's LinkedIn. Go show him a good, warm Cyber Insecurity welcome by connecting with Alan over on LinkedIn. Now, Alan, I've got a lot to talk to you about today, but I want to start off with something that I think is super important for chat. You just released a book.
That's right. Yep. May 1st, we dropped the second, well, actually third in the real book series. There was the Red Team Field Manual with Ben Clark. Then Ben and I partnered on the Blue Team Field Manual, mostly from a constructive and book pair. And then I just published on May 1st the Forensics Team Field Manual. So pretty excited. It seems like things are moving, and the community so far has been pretty receptive on the content and its usability. So that's pretty good to hear.
For those who don't know, I've been a massive fan of the Red Team Field Manual ever since it was released. As a matter of fact, Alan, it was kind of weird. I was actually speaking at a conference, and somebody brought their Red Team Field Manual to me and asked me to sign their Red Team Field Manual. They got the idea to go buy it. Yeah. And then when the Blue Team Field Manual came out, I immediately went out and bought that and started to promote that one as well, because I thought that was absolutely an amazing follow-on to the Red Team Field Manual. So good on you for that one as well. Why a forensics team field manual?
Yeah, I think when I was actually assembling the Blue Team Field Manual, I had shared with the community back then that it really grew out of a whole bunch of tabs on a spreadsheet, which was, hey, if you're going to be doing this type of incident response task, what would you be thinking about? All the steps that I wanted to capture. And then I had a whole bunch of section and content on forensics. But as I was putting the Blue Team Field Manual together, I was trying to target that kind of thin, very concise incident response portion of DFIR, and I didn't want to bloat it up with too much forensics work. So I figured, let's do the Blue Team Field Manual, get all the incident response guidance, the kind of stop the bleeding type of steps, and let's then build something that could spend just time in the investigative space, saying, hey, now that you've got a box, now that you've got an image, go through that meticulously and with a lot of procedural steps. And that even turned out to be still twice as long as the Blue Team field manual, just to even get all of that content. So it was really like, that was all my notes, but I had to split it up. And so the Blue Team, made sense to kind of really focus on that triage, and then the forensics to really, go deep dive on the images or systems that you were dealing with.
Oh, I think it's amazing. I love that series. I love that format. I think it's amazingly helpful, and to show how supportive we are. We've acquired several copies of your book. Chad, if you're listening to me, make sure you're over on over in Discord. You're in the giveaways channel. We are giving away 5 copies of Alan's book every week for the next 4 weeks.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we think that those books are absolutely amazing. You and everybody involved in that have been absolutely pivotal, I think, in absolutely transforming what I think is a quick, easy reference for a lot of the common things that people need whenever they're in the middle of a red team, whenever they're in the middle of a blue team. And now that I saw somebody in chat talk about a purple team field manual. Now we've got a forensics team field manual. And so on behalf of the community, let me thank you for putting that book out. And our show of appreciation is we're going to give that book out to the community for the next 4 weeks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you're over on Discord. We will be giving, we've got the first of those giveaways up and running inside of Discord. Huge shout out to Matt Eberhard and Query as well. They're putting forth some of the money to help acquire a lot of those books. As always, just Matt and the team are always hugely supportive of everything that's going on in the industry as well. Alan, you ready to jump into it?
Let's go. It wouldn't
be a Neal stream if I didn't lead off. You obviously have an amazing career. You obviously have an amazing pedigree. You've done a ton of work. You've worked for a lot of big organizations. You've been at this for a number of years. You're a successfully published author. Accolade. What has changed? What's been the biggest change that you've witnessed about the industry over your time in it, both from the military to Mandiant to getting acquired to a big, massive organization like Google? What's changed?
As I reflected back, I was thinking about some of the points in my career, and the things that you had available, the tools, the challenges. I think they were simpler 10 or 15 years ago. I was thinking about my time. I was the information security architect at the University of Rhode Island, and it was a great playground. If you've ever worked at a university in any type of security compassion, it's 10,000 students come back and add 10,000 infected systems to a network, right? So dealing with that, was a great learning ground, right? And back then, though, in order to see systems that were infected, it was very in clear text. There was, they were joining some type of IRC botnet. Again, this is very dated, right?
Yeah.
But the amount of tools you needed, I think at that time was not that many, right? You could get some network visibility, some, I used a tar pit to, trap scanning systems, etc. And the network access control was just a great way to kind of kick them off the network without having to go unplug everybody, right? But if you look at it today, and again, I was just at RSA, and it definitely reminded me that, an average person in this workspace with about 25 tools on their network has 25 dashboards, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that there's this maximum capacity of, how many dashboards will you need to have open on tabs to manage in a role, to manage your security risks or monitor threats or hunt or pen test, whatever. And I think that's kind of where, the complexity of the role is really starting to max out. And again, I know we're going to talk maybe a little bit about generative AI.
Yeah.
But that's like, jokingly, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Because there's got to be a way. I was actually thinking about it. Dashboards are beautiful, but again, are we coming to the problem correctly? And I think what's changed is that all that information needs to be thought through in a different way now. I think we're at a point where we have to see how to mash all this together in a new way. Just having 25 dashboards, and they're all great tools. They're all doing lots of good things. Yeah. Sometimes they have shortfalls. Yeah. But again, how do you deal with that? I don't think when I was at the University of Rhode Island, again, this is so far back, I only had a couple of dashboards, and I felt like I had a good handle on the network. Right now, I think that's a big change. The complexity and the way to see those threats, right? They're not in plain text as much anymore. There's a lot more covert communications, etc.
Do you think that has made cyber defense harder or easier, the amount of tools that have been added to the toolkit?
I think it's done both, right? Like where you needed visibility and you needed, instrumentation, you now have it available.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to go through how many clicks and how many different ways you need to pivot and how much time did that consume, and synchronizing all those tools in order to, really understand the nature of the threat, right? So now it's almost an orchestration. And again, I know that term is a very specific one in our field,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a fair amount of orchestration between all those tools and platforms to actually get to that single pane of glass, single view of whatever threat management, posture monitoring, incident managing activities. And that's not even the ticketing side of it, right? Which is just a way to handle all of these priorities in set up a logical order.
It's funny you bring up the tool space and you bring up RSA. So I think it's an awesome segue into RSA. You just got back from RSA. People on this stream categorically know my hate for conferences and especially RSA for a couple of different reasons. But what was RSA like? What were your takeaways from RSA? Like how bad, and I use that word jokingly, was that tool landscape that you saw there?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I went up to vendors that I had, some familiarity with, wanted to see what they were doing, to ones I had never even seen before, and want to say, what are you bringing to the table that's unique, right? I mean, I think the most abusive phrase was generative AI, right? Like if they didn't have that on their poster board, I don't think RSA even let them in the door. And of course, I mean, there's an evil necessity to that, right? You've got certain people who are coming there and they want to get close to this. It's a sexy topic. It sounds great.
Yeah.
And then, the thing that maybe it's a skill, maybe it's a curse. When I start to ask some of the vendors a little bit about what they're doing, sometimes the story starts to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
So you say, okay, I can't customize this. It's, you're in charge of all of the generative AI, features and what I can teach it and what I can learn it. And I think that's where the stories start to fall apart. So part of the challenge when you talk to these vendors out there is actually knowing what to ask and not just listening to what they're having to say, because when they have to say tells their story and knits things together well. But when you start to really, take it apart, I guess, things start to fall apart. Not that they're all doing bad things, but certainly I think, you've got to make sure that if you're going to go a direction in a particular vendor, are they really going to answer the question and have the flexibility and the agile development cycles to get you where you need to be?
So without naming names, because we don't really like to name and shame too much on this stream. When we talk about concepts that you're seeing of the folks that you talk to, and I agree with you. Like my wife went to RSA and like she came back, she was like the amount of agentic AI stuff that she heard all over the place was nuts. What were some of the capabilities? Whether there was substance there or whether it would just happen to be vaporware, but what problems were being solved by some of the vendors there that you thought had real promise in our industry?
Yeah, I think for a while our industry has said we're going to get you all this information in an automated way, and that was never really by the concept of using AI. It was just trying to script those things, use great connector tools to pull data from all the sources to at least present something in a, hey, here's as much as we can get in front of you, right? The thing that I think is starting to show some potential, again, it's still early, I think, is I think it's the idea that if I go onto my dashboard of a particular vendor and I want to not sit there and read all of the, how many things are red, how many things are green, how many things are checking in. I don't want to have to guess where to look. I don't want to say, hey, that widget is the loudest thing on the screen, so maybe that's the most important thing I should look at. I'd like for the AI to start to be an interactive session, like, hey, it's my morning news brief. Hey, client X or client Y, here's the things that we see of the last 12 hours that you should keep an eye on. There's new patches out from Microsoft, and you've got 15 systems that need to be patched. I put them in priority order. Should I create a ticket and send it to somebody? Here are the latest alerts that look like of interest. There's some logging in from Germany. This is from a user who normally doesn't log in. Maybe you should take a look to make sure that's an accepted or known behavior. I think that's where you start to see a bit of a chat bot kind of feature functionality, but I think it should be more forcing the conversations like they could, as opposed to, you have to ask it all the questions, like setting up a routine every time you log in. Hey, you have how much time do you have? I have 3 minutes. Okay, well, let me get you the most important things in the next 3 minutes for you to take the most important actions for your organization. I think those type of promising AI creative interactions are going to be the most powerful for the audiences who say, I don't have time to figure out what part of the dashboard I need to focus in on, because I think that's, while it served its purpose and it got us to a certain level, I think what we really need to go forward, or what's most promising, is probably that.
So let me ask this one, because I think it's actually pretty timely that you say that. So yesterday, towards the end of the market, Apple had made a pretty astounding claim. They had said that they were thinking about canceling their partnership with Google. They were going to put AI inside of their Safari browser, and Google's stock plummeted 7 percentage, because search represents, I think search on Apple devices represents something like 20 or 30% of their market share. And so this morning on CNBC, when I was watching, the banter that was going back and forth between the pundits was around how, that search interface that we've gotten traditionally used to potentially could go away, and you could start to see a more natural language, type of interface where people are interacting with systems on a more natural language basis, similar to what we see out of ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or something like that. Is that kind of what you're describing, that you think that those have the real promise in our security teams?
I think so. I was talking about an example. If you take the Blue Team Field Manual and you added plus your instant response playbooks from your organization and said, hey, ChatGPT or some chat program, learn this, and I want you to proactively bring me questions. I want you to proactively bring me updates. Tell me how to build scripts or write scripts that will get the right information based on something that's out there. I don't think I want to sit nowadays and land, I think somebody said in chat, 25 dashboards, could be more, and then have to start with that, right?
Yeah,
I love to start with a prompt that says, what are we trying to solve? And maybe it proactively says, I think we have a problem. We should try to help you solve that, right? And I think that's when the human brain, with the power of the generative AI, really start to, make things happen much quicker than trying to do it all solely or in the legacy format, right? Like search engines now have that little AI at the top, right? So they're already saying, listen, I bet we can get you the answer and not rely on the legacy search parameters or search, approach. And I bet you now, I don't know the statistics on it, but I bet you most people have probably got the answers in that first generative AI top of their browser, and they didn't have to go dig. I mean, you even see in X, I mean, every other post now is Grok, is this true? Grok, is this true?
Yeah.
And it's like, at some point you'd be like, you're going to start with, okay, Grok, what is it I need to know that's popular on X right now? I don't want to scroll. Just tell me what's real and what's not, right? I think those are that more prompting and, I'm almost chatting type of capabilities are probably a lot more effective in getting you up to speed quickly than you just, you're scrolling with hope of what's next. Is that the most important thing? I don't know,
Is now without giving away anything that you can't give away through NDA or whatnot, are these the types of things that you feel companies like Google, who are heavily invested in AI, who are really forward leaning in terms of this space, are they working on, are they seeing this type of move in the security space, and are they working on building this type of functionality into their security products?
They really are. Just to be clear, so I've recently left Mandy and Google, so I can't speak to all of the platform. But one of the things I thought was really going in the right direction was when Google bought Mandiant. One of the big pillars of Mandiant was its threat intelligence, just a very well established in the market, respectable threat intelligence feed and services. But just take the feed part. We want to use that to detect things faster, right? We want to use that, ingest it into our environment, and make sense of things. So with the Google SecOps, which is their SIM platform, one of the great areas that I think they did something really quick and really well was they said, hey, take all of the threat intelligence that exists around Google, whether it's VirusTotal, remember that's one of their acquisitions, whether it's Chrome, people browsing stuff, Gmail, all of these threats that come through all those different avenues, plus of course Mandiant and the digital forensics, put that into one threat intelligence capability. And now if I sit there in Google SecOps and some of the tools and I say, hey, I've got a threat. I want to know more about this threat. The AI is now be able to take that threat intelligence and say, hey, this is a known threat actor. This is the APT group it's with. Here's some of the things you want. You want to know more about this. And I think that's where, we've had this statement for a long time. What's the so what of any new alert you get, right? Like, hey, okay, great. I got an alert. Do I need to panic or oh no, this is known to be associated with a pretty sophisticated threat actor group. They normally go after financial information or financial access. So that's where you want to focus your attention. That's where I think that part of that AI has really, really quickly moved forward in a really consumable way. I mean, again, I'm sure it's moved since I was there, but that's what I think is very valuable.
Let me put you on the spot here a little bit and challenge that thinking just a tad bit for our audience. One of the questions that I get asked constantly on this stream, or when I talk to folks and we talk about AI, there's a lot of conversation around AI and its inability to really facilitate the security demand, either through hallucinations, either through a lack of real-time information. There's always this idea that you must have a human in the loop when it comes to AI. What you're describing doesn't sound any different than going to Google and searching for a CVE and getting maybe the Gemini answer at the top, or maybe getting like the CISA Kev or a CISA warning or something like that in the search results. What is it fundamentally about a capability like you just described, specifically around AI, that makes it faster or better or a work multiplier, if you will, for a security team?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways that comes out. I mean, I think a lot of the companies who do have their own threat intelligence feed will first claim that the threat intelligence that they've gathered, whether it's through human or the exposure of their own environment, is unique to their sourcing, right? So they brought something unique. So that additional feed doesn't really answer the AI question as much as it says, hey, because I have this, there's more advantages there. I think specifically more about what is AI going to add. I think it has the opportunity to do context. So listen, I'm asking you about some Russian business network that are, going to start stealing stuff. And the AI should be able to say, well, you really don't have the type of, we're not seeing the exploits or stuff that's happening from the threats you've queried about that are really related to that. So before you sit here and invest a lot of time thinking know or heard of 2 or 3 different type of threat groups and you went and searched on them, they're actually not applicable to your environment based on the threats that you've seen or the alerts that you're receiving. So I think that kind of course correcting you, because, we can sometimes get tunnel vision and go down a rabbit hole thinking that, oh, we know this is what I read this 2 months ago. This is definitely again, nothing against Russians, but some type of Russian hacker group. I think that's where there's an opportunity to stay focused or stay above and add that context that you may not in our relative thinking or observations can keep close to the whole totality of the situation.
I think what you're describing, if I were to change the words up just slightly, you can tell me if I'm off base on this or not. We're really talking about in the current security landscape, the vast amount of data on threat actors that exist out there, coupled with the vast amount of data in which businesses are growing, will quickly outpace your ability to analyze all that to determine if you're actually getting attacked.
100%. I was talking to somebody recently and he was working on different projects. And one of the things was, and again, I think Query AI actually does this pretty well, right? Which is, hey, this is not just about EDR data or NDR data, right? Or other network devices, the classic amount of technology that we've been working with. We've got those logs, right? That's like bread and butter for any threat management program. But what about some obscure multi-factor authentication tool or some other SaaS-based platform? All of those logs could serve to paint a true bigger picture into your statement, right? That's more context than we have time. But if you can add AI to go in there and now leverage those logs in a way that we haven't really built, because again, some of the AI has the advantages of parsing those smarter, faster, better, then also we have more context, and what could have been a 3-hour investigation could have been solved in a few minutes through some of these. Again, this is promising, and this is kind of potential here, but these are kind of problems I think people are solving that I think will be the most helpful, which is get you more information quicker.
So just in transparency, I'm a huge fan and believer that I think AI could be an amazing efficiency tool moving forward. I think I think the future, like I have been a cynic in the past. I think I've been red pilled here recently on AI within the last probably 6 months or so. But I think what BeardSec says here on screen, I think is kind of the other flip side that a lot of folks have when they talk about AI, which is, when do we get to the point where we can actually trust what AI powered systems give us. Especially having come from a Mandiant Google, having been exposed to a lot of the probably the bigger issues that Google has had to go through from a trust issue perspective. How do you combat that trust issue with AI when you're asking it to your point, to give you, should you be worried about this or not?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think some people are going to have lots of different thoughts on this, but one of the things that happened many years ago at SecureWorks was they had patented some kind of like early artificial intelligence. It was not on the generative AI side. It was mostly trying to say, with so much data that SecureWorks had visibility into, could we predict threats better than the analysts were, or better than the alerts were providing? And they got to the point where, they were like plus 90%, and they would play back all the old alerts to say, hey, did our model also work backwards? And I think AI, you have to take it the same approach, right? Like, again, say you introduce a new tool in your environment, you might say, I'm going to run this, again, sometimes this is difficult, in parallel. I'm gonna try to run an investigation in parallel using some AI tools and some scripts that the AI environment can enable, and then I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way. We're still technology, right? But the classic way, and go get those logs and go extract that and go use my scripts, manual scripts, whatever you got, tools or whatever, and see if you can get to the same result. And I think if you do that enough times, then the confidence that the tools are not hallucinating. I have seen hallucinations, and it's kind of funny, right? Some of the language models, they allow you to train them to say, listen, only use this, like, don't make up stuff, right? And show proof of work, right? Like, how did you get to that? Prove to me you did it right. Show me your math, right? And so instead of just getting the answer, you can leverage some of those, mechanisms to make sure that what you hope you were going to get equivalates to what you've done other ways or pre-AI.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, though, right? Is I think you're going to have to be an active participant in the evolution or the training, if you will, of this around us. Like, I think if I were to hypothesize, tell me, again, from your experience, if you agree or disagree with this, we've gotten used to as security that when something hits the marketplace, we have a level of confidence that it's going to do what it is it's going to do. If it's a firewall, it's going to provide blocking. If it's a router, it's going to provide router. If it's EDR, it's going to EDR stuff, right? We have yet to see practical application of AI, and we're in a unique place with the world where we have an opportunity to influence its success or failure in security operations. And so I think we have to take a more active role in that.
One of my favorite expressions I heard, I think it was on some cool AI podcast, so somebody deserves the credit for this, I just don't know who, was, today is the worst day AI will ever be. And the intent of that message is, the models and the hallucinations are probably the worst today. Every model and every release that comes out from the different, major players, plus all the own customization, it's only going to continue to get better, right? So we're dealing with and I think in one of the fastest evolutions of technology like that we've seen. And I do have the concern that a lot of our, community who are probably pretty decent with the technologies and using new things are still going to get left behind because it's going to move that fast. Somebody said there's a website, and I haven't yet visited it, but I've seen it, which was, there's an AI for that, right? Like every angle of, our world, whether you're in cyber or you're in marketing, there's all kinds of creative ways to use that. And we don't know in that plethora of tool suites, which ones are, more reputable than others. So
it's funny you say that. So Kevin Kelly over on LinkedIn says, training the AI to be a security analyst with a specific mindset and approach has helped me develop it the way that I think it, or develop it to think the way I want it to. And I think that brings an interesting conversation together that you and I had, a couple weeks ago, where we kind of talked about, the art of cybersecurity versus like the human approach to cybersecurity. And I think, I can echo a lot of my audience when they say like, well, pen testing is so nuanced, forensics is so nuanced. There's so much, critical thinking and analytical behavior that I have to apply to that. AI could never take my job. And I think you had a really interesting take on, the art versus the human side of forensics. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And again, I've done a lot of in a lot of my roles, a lot of my expectations was to help an organization mature through processes, through procedures. I even use the analogy like if I was at Starbucks and I was a new employee, I'd have a recipe card. They used to have this, at least. I don't know if they still do. And it was, here are your 10 drinks you need to memorize, right? So if you forget it, here's the step by step. You need these 10 things, right? That is the science, right? There's like, you cannot really mess that up if you follow the measurements correctly. Same thing in cyber or in technology as a whole. I think a lot of the role, whether you're a SOC analyst or a digital forensicator, there's like 80, 90% of your role that can be so accurately documented and prescriptive and procedural that you should be able to do those steps pretty well. I think automation and AI tools, they may help with a lot of that. Depends on how fast and the complexities of connecting things, right? Then the last 10 to 20%, it's just a theoretical position. Yeah. That's really the art, right? That's, the analytical mind of a researcher who's seen 1,000 threats or 1,000 alerts. They bring that specialty to the table that I don't know we've captured in AI yet. And I think then that master of the paintbrush, right? How you then can see between the story here, the context, the understanding. I think the AI tools aren't accomplishing that quite yet. And I think that's where the human element is just so invaluable, right? So if you can automate all the easy stuff and you spend, I think the thing I shared with you the other day was, say you're a SOC analyst and you've got a 20-minute, 30-minute SLA. Mm-hmm. If you can get out 90% of the art or the science of all the things you need in front of you, and then you're now well orchestrated to make a smarter decision or think about the what you're seeing more deeply, then you're going to become a better analyst as well. So you can spend more time in the art and less on the science part, which is just assembling things, right? So that's kind of the theory that I think is important.
All right, I like this, and I'm gonna do the thing where I put you in the hot seat and I push you, right? So as, being in the industry for a while too, right? I can remember this argument with SOAR, right? Simplify, Phantom, Demisto, like Torque and Tynes are doing it again, not naming and shaming, just saying like automation in the form of SOAR has been in the marketplace for 10 plus-ish years, and it has failed in every way to solve that science piece of it. Why is AI different?
That is a hot seat question. I think some of the timing is a problem, right? Like I hate to say that the human's the problem. Like I'll go all the way back to NAC.
Yeah.
I would go to corporations for digital forensics investigations, and they're in the middle of a cyber incident. I remember one was a call center, and there's hundreds of computers in a call center, right? They're just, and then the mapping of them is, at least at that time, was just terrible. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why don't you use NAC? You could just take the bad thing off the network in 10 seconds. I don't have to chase down a port across a football field of desks. And it's like, that wasn't a technology problem. That was a human problem, willing to adopt and accept that this was a better way of doing it. And it was like, for some reason, the commercial space took forever, and probably still today hasn't done a great job. I take that back. All the EDRs allow you to block an asset now, right? So it's pretty much, if you got control over the endpoint, you've got NAC, right? Mm-hmm. But for some reason, that wave at the time didn't go, but it solved the problem, right? Hey, get the bad thing off the network in a few seconds after you identify it. I think AI is going to have to deal with the same thing. I think it's just going to be how you implement it. I think the difference this time too, Neal, be honest, I think the competitive market expectations, I was part of some of the trimming that technology companies have been doing. I mean, I think there was one yesterday, for all the great people at CrowdStrike, there's about 500 of them, in the market. And that's probably a ton of great talent, right?
Yeah.
But that's going to be probably an angle that maybe, again, you can argue morally, if companies are doing this the best way, you say, hey, you're going to have to do more with less. So you know what? If you haven't adopted AI, you better get smart on it, because this is how we're going to run an organization now. We're going to expect that you streamline your processes, you streamline the way we approach, you rethink these things. So I think there's been a force of hand, and because one technology company folded, it gives them a pass to do it. Again, I'm not saying they did it in a mean way.
Sure.
Certainly they're pushing it. I think the industry's pushing it. Again, this is like opinion, Alan, not necessarily like what my reality might be. I've never been in any of those rooms. But if I said to you, hey, you have 20% more work to do in your role, and here's, the sky's the limit, right? I think that's an opportunity. I tell you this, I split AI up into two worlds. this is an Allenism, it's not maybe how other people are thinking about it. When within Google, right, it was great. Early adopters. I had AI in my Word documents, and I've got AI in my email, and AI in my chat group. So I was getting a lot of great efficiencies and automation. I don't really think about any of that as I'm a better security expert. I'm more efficient in my day-to-day role, right? I write better, I articulate things, I can summarize things, I can get the meeting notes and action items, like all that just makes me more efficient. I'm not necessarily a better security person. The other part is the technology side. What can they do? Can it, dig out, threats better? Can it automate the workflow there and really make the product or services world better? So I kind of think of those in two distinct things. And I think this part of it is really going to challenge both those things, which is, hey, this time is different because you've got the tools, you're going to have to make them work. You have less team, less staff, and our business just needs you to be more creative here. And don't worry, you don't have to sit there at your desk and go, gosh, I don't know what to do. Hey, AI tool, what do you guys should do to make
what do you think I should do today?
Right? Yeah, it's like I don't think that level of immediately available things were right in front of you, where even people emerge and could hey, if I just ask a question, I might get something that's notable, right? But I do think it's going to keep some people out of the market or challenge the market because they're going to quickly fall behind, and it's going to be tough, I think.
So on that note, I think you invoked the George Kurtz monster with CrowdStrike a little bit here. So let's talk about him, especially since it is pretty fresh. And again, it's another conversation that I've had ever since AI's been kind of in the dinner table conversation. CrowdStrike, I think, at least from a cybersecurity perspective, is the first company to openly come out and say that they have identified work efficiencies with AI, and that has driven a lot of the cost trimming that they did with laying people off, and have cited AI as a specific one. Do you think it's fair to say that AI took their jobs?
If it didn't take their job, like as in today, like they left because the AI is doing it, I think it's forcing the conversation that we need you to figure out how to do their job with AI, right? Or don't, I think all companies have a little bit of fair fluff in the system. I'm not saying they weren't working hard, but there's always some amount of inefficiency that can be hammered out where they're like, I don't really have anything on my calendar this afternoon. AI could have done a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know. But I do think it's forcing the hand that says, "Hey, listen, we need you to use AI." I don't really know exactly what CrowdStrike was saying. I think it's inevitable. I mean, I think this industry and all of the verticals are inevitably going to say, "We have built an AI tool for this." I'll give you a great example. Right? You can there's a projection that we'll be able to hire bots to do things for us. And one of the kind of visuals is you hire an AI bot, which means you buy an AI bot from a company, right?
Yeah.
They go onto your Slack chat, they go onto your Teams chat, and they can be up to speed on every historical note for the last 2 years, whatever.
Yeah.
In an hour, in 20 minutes, right? So an employee has, hey, welcome to the team. Take the next couple of weeks to get to know your team, get familiar with the documents. A bot is going to be able to do that instantly. I think that's difficult, right? Doesn't mean they know how to run a team or encourage people and motivate people. That's a human interaction that I think is very valuable. But I think that side of the knowledge worker is going to be difficult to say they can't do it better, at least be up to speed, right?
And I think
it's going to take jobs. Bottom line, it is, whether you want to call CrowdStrike out on that, I'm not in the room when it happened.
Yeah, for sure. I think Outcast brings up a great point here on Twitch. Says I think people are going to get divided into two groups. One, those who can think for themselves and use AI to accelerate their work. Two, those who believe AI is a substitute for their own intelligence. Don't catch yourself falling into group number two. I think those are sound words as well. Let me ask you this, because you're currently a free agent. You've been unfortunately impacted by your own set of layoffs with Google and with Mandiant, but obviously you had a good run there as well. So you're out on the market. You're obviously going to go take a leadership strategic role somewhere. It may be another security leader role. It may be a CISO role, maybe a CSO role, some type of leadership role. When you walk into that organization, what is your thought on AI and how it's going to impact your future team? I'm asking you to speak a little bit into future Alan's self in this conversation.
Yeah, the company that I end up working with, I want that to be part of their strategic roadmap. Like I want that organization to have a clear understanding. The only way we're going to stay competitive in the future market is figure out how to leverage this new differentiator in making us better, smarter, faster, right? I mean, companies tend to either provide a product or a service, right? In most cases, right? So when you say if that's the end goal, what will enrich or make that so differentiated that organizations can't live without us, right? This is like the best there is. So I think, from the roles I've had, whether it's consulting or in the SOC world, I think those are prime areas for AI automation, whether it's writing a report for a client, whether it's doing half of that art part of the pen test and leaving you to the science part of the pen test
Yeah.
and leaving you with the art of saying, okay, now, I want you to, really get into this web application and see if you can find something that only context of that web app would make sense from a role perspective, whatever. I think that, that's going to be important. So I think a strategic roadmap that includes AI as a pillar of their strategic direction will be notable. Obviously, people will get it wrong. Organizations will get it wrong. And I think somebody, maybe they mentioned it in the chat earlier, or was kind of talked through you. Being a survivor in this industry probably will mean you need to be able to master the leveraging of the AI ecosystem, right? And I don't think we even know today what that means, right? Like the old joke, if you're coming out of college right now, or you went into college this year, the job you probably will take doesn't even exist yet. That's a really old statement, but I think it still holds true. I think for the AI world, going into an organization and not even, in today, 2025, not even really understand how much AI will become part of your world is probably something that we'll have to get a handle on and adjust as, an organization. So I think, again, I'll go back to it. I think I could bring ideas to the table on what we know and what we see today. And if those aren't even being leveraged, then you're not even on par with from a competitive framework, right?
Yeah.
And I think it only comes a game of how do I maximize the most of this, leveraging really smart people who can use those tools. I mean, everything's a tool.
Yeah.
If you said, hey, I want you to run a pen test today, I'm going to use a tool.
Yeah.
Why? You can't just go sit there and code up an exploit and run it. Right? Like, wasn't that the way we did it? Right?
Yeah.
Back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
manually at SANS conferences, we were doing that.
Yep.
So now Nessus comes along and these other tenable, same thing, these other tools, and we go, oh, now it's more automated. Well, okay. And the leveraging of the AI is just going to take it to the next level.
So with that being said, let's get down to a little bit pragmatism here. As you move up in the executive chain, your time period becomes more and more, consumed with the workings of the organization, but yet you've got to maintain visibility into how the world's changing. And to your point, you've got to figure out how you're going to leverage these technologies or these tools to continue to make yourself effective. So what are you doing that you could pass along to our viewers? What are you doing to stay abreast, especially as this AI world moves at lightning speed, so that you're best poised to be able to give that strategic vision and that strategic advice to folks?
Yeah, I've always carried a philosophy, and I don't know if it was because of my military background. I spent 26 years, where there's always a next learning requirement in the military, right?
Yes.
So you're never
Yes.
done. Most organizations you work for, they either have as simple as like a learning tool that you can subscribe to, or they have an allowance to let you travel to conferences or events to stay abreast. Those are great. Those are a little bit more costly for some organizations. But, staying on top of things in like podcasts or videos that are keeping up on what's going on. And even sometimes the big names in the AI space, they'll have a speech or two. And sometimes it's like, okay, I've heard a lot of the premises, but there's some nuggets in there that are really will help you take it back to your organization. Like, wait a minute, what are we thinking like that? I had thought about, hands-on experiences are going to be best as well. If you wanted to learn how to use Metasploit, you had to sit down and just play with it until you got it wrong and you got frustrated and like, all right, why can't I compromise this very well-known Windows system, vulnerability? I've got everything set up right. And then you stupidly, you forgot a comma, you forgot a dash or something. Right. Just so getting hands-on with these tools will be the best way to do two things. One, raise your confidence that, hey, I've been playing with that. I get that. Two, raise your skill set so you can put that on your resume and advertise it in your current career path or maybe your next career path. And one of the things that I had dug out of an HBR magazine from 2020, believe it or not, when AI
Wow.
was still a hot topic,
Yeah.
it was like, think about it. Think about the use of AI in your own world like this. Today, how can I use AI to assist my role? And that's where we get the, hey, write this better,
Yeah.
revise this email, think through this outline. Then there's an opportunity for it to be coaching you. Like, what
Mm,
should I be thinking about? That
mm,
sort of thing. Then it's going to be in this role of monitoring your world. Like, hey, what did I miss? What's going on? What am I thinking? Like, and then ultimately, become your teammate. Hey, I'm showing up with things. So those are just, and this is just one view of
yeah.
it, but I really liked the way it kind of thought about it, which was you need to start adopting AI in your world, whether it's personal or professional, and think about it in those type of terms because it'll force the conversations. Well, how do I do that? Right? Well, which tool
Hmm.
is going to be able to do that for me? And again, I'm not sitting here to say, Google's got everything
Yeah.
great. And I think they got a lot of good stuff going on. But like they're already saying, hey, go in my email, summarize this whole thread. Oh man, you know how many times in my life I had like scroll down to the bottom of a 10-page thread and go, people's signature blocks are way too long, right? And and then follow. Okay, what did Mike say? Then what did Bob say? Then what did Jen say? Like seriously. So like summarizing email is just a huge way to assist you in getting more things done in a day that makes it easier on you, right? So I just think got adoption is huge.
I think you hit on something that I think I want to double click on for the audience, right? You talked about the early days of Metasploit, right? Before there was OSCP, before there was SANS courses, before OffSec had put out a ton of the Metasploit Unleashed content that was out there. What did we do?
Yeah.
We sat down with Metasploit, we sat down with Backtrack when it was in Backtrack, and we just
Backtrack, wow.
right, exactly. We just hammered away at it. We watched it break. We smashed our head against walls. We went into IRC chat rooms to see what other people were doing, but there was a massive lack of documentation. There was a massive lack of adoption.
Yeah.
OSCP was still incredibly new and nuanced at that point in time. You just had to play with it to figure it out. I think what I'm hearing you say is that we're absolutely at that phase. No matter what you think you're seeing in the interwebs right now, we're at that phase of AI.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's moving really fast. And so just like you spend time scrolling on your phone, feel, adding to your endorphins, whatever.
Ticky talking and Instagramming and
Yeah,
stuff like
whatever
that.
whatever you do to, mindless scrolling or scroll yourself to sleep. I heard that one. I think that's funny. You put some of that good energy towards learning some of these AI tools. Even if you do a few minutes a day, let somebody brief on how a tool works. Even if it's a boring tutorial over a cup of coffee. I just think your best self-serve and your career is going to be dependent on your organization will be dependent on it.
Mhm.
Is you be able to speak smartly. I mean, talk about being in the job market. There's a mismatch right now. There's a ton of jobs. There's a ton of jobs out there in the job market, but now it's a skill set match. Like how do you slot all these jobs correctly? And I can't tell you how many of them have the word AI somewhere tucked in there. And there are job titles like head of AI. You're like, really? I mean, this has not been head
I was
of
gonna
AI,
say.
large language models. Yeah. There hasn't been people doing cybersecurity and AI for, certainly not thousands of people. But yet the jobs act like everybody's got 8 years experience in generic AI. It's like, holy crap. Like, I mean, we're just not, the market isn't there yet as far as the capabilities built into the teams and people, but the jobs are there.
Yeah.
So the faster you can move into it, the more marketable you are. You'll probably help organizations just start their journey. I got one more point I was going to bring out, which is many organizations, if you said, hey, what's your AI policy right now from a cybersecurity or GRC perspective? Like, oh, we don't allow AI. Yeah,
Yeah.
you say that and you don't
Yeah.
have a policy. But I bet you won't go in this organization, you get a lot of AI usage. And one of the real threats would be, well, wait a minute. So you tell me if I had a cyber incident and I found this PDF on your network and I wasn't sure if it was real or AI generated, deep fake or whatever. Like if you don't have a handle on the acceptable usage of AI
Mhm.
in your organization and the tools you should be using, right? Because if you go to, again, not to pick on Chat GPT, but they're all kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
If you don't unselect certain security boxes, it says it has the right to send that and help build better LMs.
Yeah.
And while that's not bad for some use cases, you could actually be leaking your intellectual property out there. I mean, I would love to see a DEF CON talk that just covered
Yeah.
that topic and say, hey, can I take a few of the big brands and see if I can get an AI tool to give me stuff that shouldn't be out there. This may already be happening. I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
But that's the kind of security programs and opportunities to help organizations think smarter about that.
Wholeheartedly agree. I think I have oftentimes pretty much since ChatGPT kind of like really hit the news, I've got an ongoing long call out there that we're not far away from a very, very massive data breach around data that has been fed into an LLM, either whether it's a corporate LLM, whether it's a private LLM that's being used to support a help desk or a tech support organization. Yep. There is some data breach on the horizon very shortly around LLMs.
I've already seen one. I forgot it was. I read a story the other day. They did it. They did it. I forgot what the story was, but I definitely agree. I mean, bigger and more impactful on data breaches for sure.
Absolutely. Cypher Enigma came through with Twitch with a good question for you. It says, do you think it's more likely that there will be more monolithic vendors, or are we going to see more purpose-driven products as AI starts to hit its stride?
Oh, I think it'll be a divergence for a long period of time. I think everybody under the sun will have an AI product or a better AI product than the next person, all doing specific things. And you could see, here's a great analogy. If you said to me today, how many subscriptions do you have? Oh, I pay $4 a month for this. My daughter pays $4 a month for that. What's the UV ray, of the index for the day, right?
Yeah.
I see that with bots as well. I see people all coming out with their own version of a bot that does something for them in their life or in their role. So I think for a while, it's going to be split 1,000 ways. And then the winners or the people who do it best might aggregate. They get maybe it's the trusted side, maybe it's a cost-effective side, maybe it's just a full spectrum of capabilities. But I do think it'll splinter for quite a bit because it's just too new, right? So the first search hit that comes up, somebody's like, all right, that looks like it's going to work. Click. Now we solved our marketing calendaring AI tool, right?
Yeah. I think when you talk like that and when you describe it in that fashion, I'll tell you what scares me as a CISO, right, is that, this space is moving so fast, and the ability to enable your teams to develop and innovate at the speed of AI and to protect your organization also at the speed of those innovation teams is scary. And I look at things like vibe coding, right? I look at things like, how do you use AI to make your coding faster, better, smarter, more efficient, right? All of those things are great for efficiency and scare the absolute bejesus out of me as a CISO.
Yep. I can tell you right now, the risk is there and everywhere. And most organizations, unless you're like a really closely managed, controlled environment like a bank where they kind of even control browsing habits, right? I think the cat is out of the bag. How much can we manage is probably now the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with code creation. Even Microsoft said, 30% of their code is now AI created, right?
Yeah.
So how many organizations are out there, and what tools are they absolutely using, right? I mean, if you're creating code, I'm not trying to blame any engineer or any coder, right? But if there's code in there that turned out to, be, malicious in nature because you use some obscure tool, man, how are you going to find that, right?
I think a similar, like Anthropic's CEO said something like he expects 50% or more of his staff to be replaced by AI software engineers in the next couple of years as well. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. No, definitely interesting times moving forward. Alan, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I want to thank you on behalf of my audience as well for joining us today. It was an amazing conversation. You got a wealth of knowledge out there. I want to remind everybody we're giving away your book. The Forensics Team Field Manual. We're giving it away for the next 4 weeks, so make sure you are in Discord. Go to the giveaways channel to get signed up for the giveaway for Alan's book. Real quick, talk a little bit about your book and tell everybody what they can kind of come to expect from your book.
Yeah, like I mentioned in the beginning, I think it offers people who are in their early stages of their career, or certainly at the point where they want to make sure they're very structured in their approach and the thoroughness. I think this book offers that combination, right? So in this book, I actually went through a lot more checklists. The feedback I got from the community was, hey, commands are great, but also I just need to think more procedurally about what the things I need to go through. So in the beginning of the book and towards the end of the book, there's a lot of great checklists about how to approach the forensic investigation. What am I actually doing? Why am I doing it? What should I be asking? What should I be collecting? What are the rules of the road? How does law enforcement, legal all fall into that? So a lot of great checklists and things to think about. It doesn't have a lot of description, right? I'm not sitting here trying to teach it like a thick, 600-page book you might get off of a Barnes & Noble's bookstore. It's very punchy, right to the point. So no fluff. So you do have to have a basic knowledge. But I think once you've been through some type of basic course, these checklists are really invaluable. You can adopt them, right? You can take that and go, okay, well, Alan is great on 9 things, but we have 11 at our organization, so I'll just add 2 more. And then you can script them. You can, create AI models. So I think great set of basics that you can apply to most cases. It doesn't cover IoT forensics, but it covers Linux forensics, which has a lot of the same guts of an IoT device. So a lot of reusable, and the principles of investigation don't change either, right? So hopefully the community will see it that way. Hopefully I'll get some great feedback on it. And, we'll have to do the next thing.
Yeah, so make sure you hop over into Discord. Make sure you do get into the first round of that book giveaway that we'll give for Alan. Make sure you do go in if you do acquire the book through other means or you do get it through a giveaway. Make sure you do go give Alan a review. Huge shout out, Alan, to you for the book, and huge shout out to Query for making that happen as well. Alan, there isn't enough time in the day for us to cover all the topics, and you've been absolutely amazing in this conversation and every conversation I've had with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you close us out for the day with anything you want to say to the community.
Well, I just want to say first, Neal, thank you for the time. Query and Matt, thank you for the sponsorship with the books. And for the community, hey, I'd love to hear your feedback. I hope you get on your journey. If you've had one of these transitions, you want to use a book like this to get you to the next part of your career, I hope it's useful. And I hope to see you at some cyber conferences, probably over at DEF CON this year, and to see how people are appreciating or leveraging the book.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Alan, I'm going to send you along the way, and I'm going to talk to my community. You have a good one, and we'll talk soon. There you go, Chad. Another awesome guest, care of SecDataOps. That was amazing. Like I said, I've never had a bad conversation with Alan. I've absolutely enjoyed every single bit of it. He's an amazing individual. He's wealth of knowledge. Make sure you go connect with him over on LinkedIn. Hit that exclamation point guest. Go to his LinkedIn. Super awesome. With that being said, tomorrow's Friday, which means it's tea with a hacker time. So with that being said, whether you're on the red side or the blue side or still deciding, keep learning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
I'm thankful for every little thing. Got a long road that's ahead of me, but everything was meant to be. I finally gotta just let it out, and with that